Alrighty, welcome back, boys and girls. It's your main mathematician Shank coming to you live from Walker Grant Middle School, and in this video we're still working on that SOL review guide, and we're now working on that SOL 8.5, and so we're talking about everything angles. So make sure you can read over those things to know. So again, some review for you. We have those supplementary angles. Those are those two angles that add up to 180 degrees. However, for the complementary angles, they're gonna add up to 90. So a way to remember that is I can say, all right, for complementary, I can write that C, and then I can change that into 90. Same kind of idea for supplementary, I can write that S, which is also similar to writing that 180. So I'm gonna say, all right, I have my complementary and my supplementary angles like so. Also, the other special angle pairs that we usually talk about, we have the vertical angles are always congruent. That means they are the same. Again, that is when they form a X in any shape. That means that these two angles are congruent, and also these two are separately congruent. Again, they have to share that common vertex, which is that point where those segments intersect. And then adjacent angles, they're not equal. However, they are next to each other. So again, those are next to. Again, adjacent means neighbor. Make sure that you are thinking that they share a common ray, meaning that segment, and vertex. Also too, try to think and remember, anytime it forms that straight line, we're gonna say it's complementary. Again, that makes sense, since if you have a straight line, it is going to be 180 degrees. So what I like to do is I like to review those vocab, and I like to have a little index card or piece of paper. That way I can be able to isolate or combine different things. Alrighty, I'm also gonna use a highlighter, that way it's a little bit easier to see. So for number one, let me scroll up. For number one, it says which two angles are complementary. So I have to have that their sum is 90. So we have angle A and angle D. So let's check this out. Angle A is 29, and angle D is 71. That is equal to 100, which is not what we need. What about angle C, which is 61? And angle E is 119. I can tell you already that is not what we're looking for, since 119 is greater than that. That means that we can't have what we are looking for. If one of those angles are obtuse, meaning greater than 90, we know that it can't be added to anything to equal 90. However, for letter C, or answer choice C, we have angles B, which is 39, and angle C, which is 61. That's also 100, which is not the case. So let's double check that last one. It says angle A, which is 29, and angle C, which is 61. And yes, you guessed it, it is good. All right. How about for number two, it says which two angles are supplementary? Well, if we remember, we kind of said that, I believe it was C and E. So let's check again. We said angle C was 61 and angle E is 119, which is good. All right. Usually, anytime they're supplementary, usually has one acute angle, which is an angle less than 90, and one obtuse angle, which is an angle greater than 90. That makes sense because, again, if you look at angle C, that's an acute angle, and angle E is an obtuse angle. Another combination I could have is two right angles add up to 180, very simply. All right, moving on. For number for questions 3 through 7, look at these angles. Which two angles are vertical angles? All right, so they have to form that X. And so let's see. if I'm looking here, I can say, okay, I have, let me actually use another blue, or yeah, I'll use this. I can say, all right, two angles are vertical angles. So I'm gonna say, all right, I can notice and have my X here. And if I'm looking at that X, I would say, hey, angle 1 and angle 3 are going to be vertical angles. So I can say angle 1 and angle 3 are, or I can just say are vertical angles. So I'd say angle 1 and angle 3. Get that out of the way. All right. And then for number 4, it says angle blank is adjacent to angle 1. So again, it has to be next to angle 1. We have angle 1. And what's the only other angle that is labeled? We would say angle 4. Again, they share that common ray and vertex. So we'd say angle 4 is adjacent to angle 1. We're looking for adjacent angle to number 2. So angle 2 is adjacent to angle 3. Angle blank is and angle 1 are supplementary. So let's see. That means that they form a straight line, so 180 degrees. So what I can do is I can use that index card, piece of paper, whatever you want to do. And so we're saying, okay, I have to have an angle with angle 1. It doesn't have to be next to it. It does not have to be adjacent, but it needs to add up to 180. So I'm saying angle 1 and actually angle 4. Again, notice how it forms that straight line. So I have angle 1 and angle 4 are supplementary angles. So angle 1 and angle 4 are supplementary. And then this also forms a corner. So forms, let's say forms straight line. And I can say this forms a corner since it is 90 degrees. So angle 1 and another angle, that adds up to equal 90. All right, so that's gonna be a little bit more complicated, but that's okay. I have our opportunity. So if you notice, this is one's a little bit trickier, but okay. We have that these three angles, angle 1, angle 2, and this 90-degree angle, these add up to 180 degrees. Notice how it has that straight line, like so. That means if we say that this is 90 degrees, that means that angle 1 and angle 2 must also be 90 degrees. So if I add up angle 1 and angle 2, they would be complementary angles. And for number 8, it says all the following statements are true except. So we have to find one false. Okay. And if you need to, you can say, okay, this is true because of this, or you could say this answer is false because of this. So always be able to back your claims with factual statements. All right, so for A, it says congruent supplementary angles each measure 90 degrees. Congruent supplementary angles each measure 90 degrees. So that's what I was talking about before, because they have to add up to 180 degrees, and so the only way that they are the same is 90. So this is true, which is not what we're looking for. For choice B, it says vertical angles share a common vertex. Well, we said that before. Vertical angles are congruent. They are formed when two lines intersect. They share a common vertex. So this is true. For C, it says adjacent angles are congruent. This is false, which is what we are looking for. Again, I can have I can actually prove it in this picture. Angle 1 and angle 4 are adjacent angles. However, obviously they are not congruent. And then for choice B, complementary angles are both acute since they both are less than 90. So that is also false. All right. Or sorry, that is also true. There we go. On the back, it says for number 9 through 12, use the angles shown. It says if a measure of angle CAD is 30 degrees. So let me do that first. It says angle CAD. So it's talking about this right here is 30 degrees. Find the measures of the other angles. Okay, so again, be mindful of how these labels work. Again, that vertex is that middle letter, which for any of these angles, it's going to be A, so we don't have to worry about that. But we want to use those endpoints, or those points on those rays, to be able to figure out what we're talking about. So let me actually use, let's use a couple highlighters here. Blue. So now, let's have, for the measure of angle BAC. So it has measure of angle BAC. It's talking about this one here. This one here. It's saying, okay, what is the measure of that angle? Well, so this is how it usually works. It usually gives you one angle, and then you should be able to find the others. If you notice, we can say, well, I have that a 90-degree angle on BAD. Again, notice the box that is in there, and it says this angle here is 30. So this other angle has to be 90 minus 30, which is going to be 60 degrees. So we're going to say angle BAC is 60 degrees. So I'm going to say 60 degrees. All right. For angle BAF, let me actually highlight that one. We can say measure of angle BAF. Measure of angle BAF. All right. How do we figure out that angle? Well, since we have this angle that is 60 degrees, and we notice that straight line that is here, we're saying, okay, angle BAC plus angle BAF is going to be 180 degrees using that straight line. So I can say 180 minus 60 is going to be 120 degrees. So I'm going to say this is 120 degrees. Then for angle DAE, let me highlight that. Angle DAE. DAE. All right. How do we get that one? Same kind of setup. I can see that I have that these two angles form this straight line, which actually, if I notice that on that right side I have a 90-degree angle, that means that this is also going to be 90 degrees since they form a supplementary angle. So I'm going to say this is going to be 90 degrees. And then lastly, angle FAE. So let me highlight that one. Angle FAE. FAE. All right. So let's see here. If we're looking at angle FAE and we're looking at angle BAC, we notice that these two are vertical angles. So that means that this is also 60 degrees. Again, make sure you can, identify, isolate different angles for yourself. That way it's easier to follow. So again, that was 9 through 12 were for this picture. Number 13 and on are separate ones. So we're going to say for number 13, angles A, B, C, and DEF are complementary. If angle DEF is 71.8, what is measure of angle ABC? So it's saying that this is going to be 71.8. Again, complementary means 90. So I can take 90 minus the one angle to figure out what my other angle is going to be. So I'm going to say that angle ABC is going to be 18.2 degrees. For number 14, it says find the measures of both angles. All right. So now we know that, hey, we have that straight line. That means that these two angles added together are going to be 180 degrees. So let's set up a nice little equation here. So I can say, all right, my first angle x plus my next angle 3x plus 20 is going to be equal to 180. I have a couple of step equation here. I can draw my lines if I need to. Combine like terms first, add those coefficients together. I have 1x plus 3x is going to be 4x. The rest of the equation stays the same. So I have 4x plus 20 equals 180. Do those inverse operations to get x by itself. I subtract 20 from both sides. The 4x comes down. I have 160. Divide both sides by the coefficient, and so I'd say x is going to be equal to 40 degrees. And what I can do is I can actually check to make sure that works. I can say, all right, I can type my left side of my equation. I can say x plus 3x plus 20. And then I'm saying, okay, if x equals 40, my left side of the equation should equal my right side, which is 180. So if I type in x equals 40, I have that this is 180. Make sure that you're answering the question carefully though. It's asking what is the angle measure of both angles. So I'd say this is going to be 40 degrees. However, I need to have this other angle. So I'd say this is going to be 140 degrees. So I'd say this is going to be 140 degrees. All right. Then for number 15, it says find the measure of EAD. So let's find EAD. All right. Similar setup. We have that these two angles, if you notice, we have these two angles form that X. Again, it has to be those straight lines. It can't be bent in any way. It has to be two straight lines that intersect at the common vertex. So I know that these two are vertical angles, and so that means I can set them equal to each other. So what I can do is this. I can say, all right, 3x minus 17 is equal to 2x plus 8. I have variables on both sides. Get rid of the lowest coefficient. So I'm going to add the opposite to both sides. So I'm going to say, all right, subtract 2x from both sides. That gives me x minus 17 is equal to 8. Add 17 to both sides, so plus 17. I have x is going to be equal to 25. However, I don't circle that because that's not my answer. It's asking for, hey, what is going to be that angle? Let me highlight it again. Angle EAD. So I'm looking for that left side of the equation. Before I even do that, I want to make sure I can check. I can type, if I have variables on both sides, I can type in both sides of my equation. I can have those two separate expressions. And I can say, okay, if these two values, if these two lines in Desmos calculator are the same, when x equals 25, then I know I am good. So let's say x equals 25. Since both of these are correct, we know we're good. And that actually tells us what our angle measure is. So we're going to say the measure of angle EAD is equal to 58 degrees. All right. And then lastly, it says select all correct answers. Which examples are adjacent angles? So that means that they share, again, they share a common side and vertex. If they are split like this, we know that these are not adjacent angles. Even though they seem next to each other, they have to be attached. They have to share that side. So we'd say, okay, this one's good, this one is not, and this one is also good. So we'd have those two for that one.